The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try your call again. Thank you. The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try your call.
Hello?
Hi, Dr.
Hello?
Fuller. We have you in the council chambers.
Okay, Miss Navarro. Good to hear from you. Aloha.
Aloha.
Yeah, I'm looking over, just say aloha. Okay, I'm here.
Good evening. This is the regular joint meeting of the Oakley City Council. Oakley City Council acting as the successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency and special meeting of the Oakley Public Financing Authority. This meeting is called to order at 6:31 p.m. Councilmember Fuller will join via teleconference, and his location is the Doubletree by Hilton, Pakalana Room, 1956 Ala Moana Boulevard, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96815. All right, roll call. Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Fuller.
Here?
Vice Mayor Shaw. Here. And I am Mayor Williams. We are now going to have the Pledge of Allegiance presented by the Heritage High School JROTC. All right, great. That was awesome. We're going to have 1.3, proclamation recognizing February as Prescription Drug Abuse Awareness Month. Danielle Aubin from the BART program. So I'll read it. All right. Whereas, when used as prescribed by a doctor, prescription medications such as stimulants, sedatives, and opioids can be helpful in treating many illnesses. But when these medications are misused, they can have serious consequences. And whereas, many prescription drugs can alter a person's thinking and judgment and can lead to health risks, including addiction, drug driving, infectious disease, and adverse effects on pregnancy. And whereas, anyone who takes prescription opioids can become addicted to them. In fact, as many as 1 in 4 patients receiving long-term opioid therapy in a primary care setting struggles with opioid use disorder, OUD. And whereas prescription opioid overdose deaths also often involve benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines are central nervous system depressants used to sedate, induce sleep, prevent seizures, and relieve anxiety. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, recommends avoiding taking benzodiazepines while taking prescription opioids. Whenever possible due to the risk of overdose. And whereas in 2022 in Contra Costa County, there were 463,914,000 opioid prescriptions given to patients, which is an age-adjusted rate of 349.6 per 1,000 residents, higher than the state rate of 321.74. And whereas in 2022, a total of 21,016 emergency department visits occurred in California that were related to any opioid overdose, and 348 of those visits occurred in Contra Costa County. And whereas, according to the Center for Disease Control, 106,699 drug overdose deaths occurred nationally in 2022. 80,411 were from opioids, and 169 of those opioid-related overdose deaths occurred in Contra Costa County. And whereas synthetic opioids other than methadone, primarily fentanyl, and stimulants such as methamphetamine were the main drivers of drug overdose deaths in the U.S. in 2022. And whereas, to help prevent substance use disorder and overdose deaths, the Oakley City Council encourages community members to dispose of their expired and unwanted prescription drugs throughout the year and safely store those still needed. And whereas, the Contra Costa County Medication, Education, and Disposal Safety Meds Coalition engages all community members to the county to participate in Prescription Drug Awareness Month activities to raise prescription drug safety awareness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Anissa Williams, Mayor of the City of Oakley, joined with the members of the Oakley City Council in declaring March 2024 as Prescription Drug Awareness Month in Oakley.
Good evening, esteemed members of the City Council. I stand before you today with profound gratitude as we acknowledge and accept this proclamation for Prescription Drug Abuse Awareness Month. On behalf of the CC Meds Coalition and BART programs, I extend heartfelt appreciation to the City Council for recognizing the importance of addressing this critical issue. Prescription drug abuse is a pervasive problem that affects individuals, families, and communities across our nation. By declaring this month as dedicated, and by this month I mean March, I know I put it on February, but by declaring March as a dedicated time for raising awareness, you are shining a spotlight on the pressing public health concern and reaffirming our collective commitment to combating substance misuse, which often leads to the development of a substance use disorder, particularly opioid use disorder. This proclamation serves as a catalyst for education, prevention, and support efforts within our community. It amplifies our voices as advocates for those struggling with addiction and underscores the importance of access to resources and treatment for those in need. As we accept this proclamation, let us also recommit ourselves to fostering empathy, understanding, and compassion for individuals affected by prescription drug abuse. Together, we can work towards building a healthier, more supportive environment where everyone has an opportunity to thrive. Thank you again to the City Council for your leadership and dedication to the well-being of our community. Let us continue to collaborate and drive positive change as we strive to make Prescription Drug Abuse Awareness Month a catalyst for meaningful action. Thank you.
Okay, at this time we're moving on to public comments. I do not see any blue speaker cards. We did get online comments that will be submitted into the notes. If anybody would like to submit a public comment card, please grab one from a blue speaker card located in the lobby and submit to the city clerk. The time limit to speak is 3 minutes. The time limit is monitored by the timer located in front of my seat. When 1 minute remains on the timer, it will beep once as a reminder to complete comments before your time expires. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, or other outbursts so that everyone may have an opportunity to be heard. Note that due to provisions of state law, the council may not engage in dialogue regarding comments. Staff may be directed to respond to persons making public comments. Seeing no speaker cards, we'll move on to council member comments. Item 3. Okay, I'll make a comment. The Freedom Parents Club is desperately trying to pull off grad night. So the senior class that's graduating right now are 8th graders. Were 8th graders during COVID, so they missed graduation. So they're desperately trying to solicit community volunteers, donations. I have the contact of the Parents Club. If anybody is able to help them, they want to pull off something spectacular for the seniors. So I said I would give a little plug here. All right, moving on to item 4, the consent calendar. Oh, sorry. Oh, good job, thank you. My vice mayor is keeping me. Councilmember Fuller, do you have any comments that you would like to get across?
Just on item 4.1, but since I'm communicating now, I want to appreciate the minutes that were created from the last minute and thank Ms. Morales and our council city manager for their efforts.
Okay, so that you want to pull item 4.1. We were on council member comments. Do you have any comments for item 3?
No,
Okay.
just 4.1 you can pull, but that's my comment on 4.1. If you want to proceed and improve the whole.
Okay, so you don't actually want us to pull 4.1?
No.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we're moving on to item 4, the consent calendar. Are there any items that anybody would like to pull?
4.4.
Okay, 4.4. Anything else? I'd like to pull 4.5. Do I have a motion to remove the rest of the calendar?
I move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we need to do, roll call vote, right? Okay. All right, can you conduct the roll call?
Councilmember Meadows.
Aye.
Dr. Fuller.
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye. So it's unanimous.
Unanimous. Correct.
I'll get there. All right, okay, so 4.4, Vice Mayor Shaw pulled that.
Yeah, so I just want to, as always, pull anything that has to do with East Cyprus, and because Summer Lake is down East Cyprus, I wanted to give staff the opportunity to explain that this is a formality, this is not an approval for, or denying the project, so I would just kind of like the history explained, and then an explanation as to what this item does in that process.
Certainly. Mayor Williams, Vice Mayor Shaw, members of the council. The story of Summer Lake development began long before, years ago, even before Oakley was Oakley. During the county days, at that time, the developer of the subdivision was Shea Homes, and they worked through the county, got their project developed and development process, and construction began. Fast forwarding to early 2000s, the construction of what today we call Summer Lake South was completed. After Summer Lake South was completed, Shea Home kind of stopped the rest of the development. They owned the property, what today we call it the Summer Lake North. Fast forward into a number of years, in October 2011, the City Council approved the Summer Lake North subdivision vesting tentative map, which basically created the lots that created the subdivision. That's 824 residential lots, about 70 acres of park, landscape areas, and a lot of infrastructure. That's one of the largest infrastructure projects that we had on our subdivisions. Since then, again, what's called the Summer Lake North was turned over to other developers, again, with Shea Homes kind of out of the picture until July 2021, when Civic Summer Lake North LLC purchased that property and actively start working on it. So over the past few years, we've been working with this development group, which, by the way, representatives of this development team are here if the council has any questions from them, to really start the construction. Over the past year, if you've seen, we've updated you, the levies for the subdivision has been started, construction actually completed, and now they want to start the infrastructure. So tonight's approval basically is to approving a subdivision agreement with this development team and also the final map, which is based on the conditions of approval. Again, this is no different than any other development that has come before you over the past years or will come in the future years. It's just a formality. This development team are, again, actively engaged and want to start the construction of the infrastructure. It will take several years. This development, for benefit of the audience and those watching online, it will take a number of years, maybe close to 10 years before all of these homes are going to be built. I know there's a interest of East Cypress Road, and they're building more homes without a roadway. As you know, we are working on construction of East Cypress Road this year, next year, and 2026. So the next 3 years, there will be brand new East Cypress Road constructed all the way to Bethel Island to the frontage of this subdivision. During that time, the developer is going to be building infrastructure, roadway, utilities. I mean, there is, if you've taken, it's a big project. It's not something can be built over a few months. And then start, building the homes, which will take, again, many more years. So just I want to make everybody rest assured the roadway would have been long completed before all of these homes are going to be built. But yeah, tonight, as I said, it's just a formality as a part of the process. You're not approving anything related to the houses.
And that's kind of what I wanted to hear, is just that I want to make sure everyone understands that the roads, this is not going to slow it down, this is not going to stop it, that's going to happen, and these homes, as far as people moving into them and adding more families and cars, is going to be after the roadways are complete. So I always like to highlight it. I like to make sure we are, making people aware that these were approved long ago. These are all formalities that we have to do, but the East Cypress expansion is happening, and it's in the forefront.
Absolutely, and all of the East Cypress project, as you know, this as a part of the city's capital improvement program, which you will see as a part of our budget process in a few months. But no, that's separate process, but running in parallel.
Okay, thank you. And if there's nothing else, I'd move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Ms. Veronis, can you do the roll call vote?
Councilmember Meadows,
Aye.
Dr. Fuller,
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you.
Perfect. And I pulled 4.5 just for a similar reason. Laurel's obviously a pain point, and this is a great, I think we've made some great progress. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to explain where we are, where we've come from, and what the next steps mean with this item 4.5.
Yes, Mayor Williams, as I've written in the report, we've been working on this section of not East Cypress Road, but Laurel Road for a number of years. All the other portions of Laurel Road has been widened to city standards. As you've seen, this kind of corner of Laurel and O'Hara has been left out because we did not have the right-of-way to execute our project. We've been engaged with the family who owned, the Del Barbo family who owns the vineyard, about making this project happen. It's taken a number of years. This did not happen overnight. And in end of 2022, we brought a report to you. We reached an agreement in principle about the transaction that basically we would acquire the right-of-way for our project from the family. One of the main issues we've had was those WAPA poles, the western big poles you've seen, and we've moved them, not we, but the WAPA agency has moved them in the past. So we needed to get the right of way. It's a domino effect. Fast forward into today, this evening, we finally finalized all of our agreements with the Del Barba family. I want to definitely acknowledge and thank City Attorney Mr. Cole. He was instrumental in working with the attorney for the Del Barbas to kind of finalize the deal on this purchase agreement. So tonight, basically, city is acquiring the land we need for our roadway widening, both on the Laura side and on the O'Hara side. With this task, if you approve the purchase, we will proceed, and at your next meeting in March, I'll bring a report to you. This is for now, since the city will own the land, we would give easement to WAPA to relocate their pole. We could not do that until we have the land in our possession. And once we do that, WAPA, over the next 2-3 months, we will be relocating their poles. As far as the project itself, this project, CIP 280, is as a part of our capital improvement program, and it's under design. We plan to finish the design by this summer. I intend to bring a report to you hopefully in July for award of a construction contract, and probably start construction late August, which will take us for the full construction to kind of middle of next year. And that would complete our Laura Road improvement project, which is a major enhancement for the community. As you alluded to, it's been a bottleneck and not a easy area to traverse, but finally we will have that taken care of. Again, it's been a long journey, but again, thanks to all of our partners, the Del Barba family, Mr. Cole, who worked to make this happen.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
And then also, because we are spending the money on this, and in the event that the rest of the property sells, we would be able to recoup some costs for the improvements that we're going to be doing, correct?
Absolutely. As a part of our normal operation, I mean, that vineyard, it's going to be sold. From what I've heard from a family, they want to move on from that. And once there's a developer acquires the property, and developer will come to the city with their development plan, and again, as a part of their conditions of approval, because that by then, all of the frontage improvement would have been completed, and we would know exactly our cost, and we will gather our costs, put it on our file, so when the developer comes, they would have to pay us the costs of that frontage improvements. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Meadows.
First off, I just wanted to say I was handing this contract sort of back and forth just because I'm missing pages. And I wanted to verify it wasn't crazy. On section 5.1, I think it's 5.1. I think there needs to be some cleanup on days. I mean, it's written 20 and it shows 10, so I think that needs to be cleaned up. I gave my notes to somebody. 60, there's an area in here that talks about 60-day feasibility or due diligence period, and then a 30-day close. I didn't read the 30-day close after the 60 days. I was reading it straight up 30 days, but if it's after due diligence is over, then I'm fine with it. But I think that we need to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, the intention, I apologize for some of the, with the rapid changes, the intention was to have a 30-day close, a 30-day escrow, so we can make the changes we need in that 5.1. The reason being is we want to get this, we're ready to wrap it up.
And I'm fine with that. I'm just saying there's inconsistencies in. I mean,
Yeah, and I apologize. Yeah, I apologize.
Period. So, I mean, I'm okay if you guys go back and clean all that up.
That is the plan. Again, this was literally at the last minute trying to work out all the details between us and the attorneys from the family, and a lot of back and forth to finalize it. So if there is any mishaps, we have your notes. Councilmember Meadows will make sure in the final version that's all correct.
Thank you.
So we can make the motion with the edits that,
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
you can make the motion with the recognition that all, if it's the pleasure, that a 30-day escrow will be provided and all the deadlines in section 5.1 will be internally consistent with that.
I move approval of 4.5 with a 30-day close of escrow and any cleanup and corrections that need to be done, specifically 5.1.
Councilmember Fuller, I just wanted to check and make sure you didn't have any items on that 4.5 that you wanted clarification on?
No, I just want to thank Mr. Rouhani and Mr. McMurray and the rest of the city staff, the Del Barba family for what they've done. It has been, as Mr. Rouhani mentioned, years and something we've been working on for a considerable time, and I believe in wrapping this up in the manner that we are, we're going to improve safety and convenience and happiness for our community. So thank you. Mahalo.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Ms. Veronis, can you conduct a roll call vote?
Councilmember Meadows,
Aye.
Dr. Fuller,
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shaw,
Aye.
and Mayor Williams.
Aye.
The item passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, great. Moving on to item 5.1, consideration of a resolution establishing a master fee schedule and updating certain city fees. This will be presented by Jerry Tejada, our Administrative Services Director.
Good evening, Mayor Williams, Vice Mayor Shaw, members of the council. Tonight before you, we have consideration of our master fee schedule. And as you recall, on January 23rd, we had a lengthy work session on the discussion of recreation fees. So the schedule presented to you tonight is updated based on that direction that we received from council during that work session. And all of the detail of that has been provided in the staff report. In addition to recreation, staff did a full review of the fee schedule, and we did find a few fees that had been in place for years and we have been charging. They just have not been on the fee schedule, so we went ahead and added those during this time. And we did make some minor changes to things like copying and scanning fees, making those a flat fee versus a per page fee, as it takes a ton of staff time to count hundreds of pages. So we tried to make those a flat fee. And then lastly, in March of 2022, Resolution 2422 was adopted, authorizing Mount Diablo resource recovery fees to increase annually by the refuse rate index. This year, that increase will be 3.42% and will be effective July 1st. So those rates are on the fee schedule as well. And then just one minor note I wanted to note, since the schedule was posted, the MDRR fees, there was a couple of fees that had a small clerical error on them. If approving the resolution tonight, we ask that it be approved with the following amendments. The account reinstatement fee should be $35, not $75. The go back service fee should be $35, not $75. And the cart service per cart charge should be changed from $40 to $75. As this is a public hearing, I did want to note that all noticing requirements for the proposed changes were met, and that if approved tonight, the provided fee schedule will be effective April 28th, 2024. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions prior to opening the public hearing.
Do I have any questions from any members of the council? Councilmember Fuller, do you have any questions?
Not a question, but I will have a comment when we're ready for discussion.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to open the public hearing. All right. Do any members of the public have any comments? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we will have deliberation. Any members of the council care to deliberate? Councilmember
Yes.
Fuller. Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, yes, I believe you've done some fantastic work on the master fee schedule. We're presenting it as in a whole item. There were a couple of items that I'm in disagreement with, especially with the $4 after-school fee to $10. That's an increase of what, 150%, something along that line. It's a hindrance to those that really could prosper from after-school care with minimum wage. There's a couple of others, so I'm in agreement with many of them, but since we're putting it together as an entire item, and I don't want to go through and request each item that to be considered, I will vote no for the whole item.
Any other deliberation? Okay, I think we need to take a roll call vote then, Ms. Veronis?
You need a motion?
Oh, Jess, I do need a motion. I do.
I'm happy to make that motion to approve the master schedule for fees.
Second.
Okay, we have,
Would be with the,
with the edits.
yes.
All right, so we have a first and a second, and now a roll call vote can be called, Ms. Veronis.
Councilmember Meadows.
Aye.
Dr. Fuller.
No,
Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
And the item passes 4-1.
All right, we are now moving on to the regular calendar. Item 6.1, we are going to introduce an item to waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance regarding administrative fines for unlicensed commercial cannabis activity, including cultivation, manufacturing, processing, distribution, or retail sale of cannabis, and declaring such activity a public nuisance. This will be done by Libby Veronis, our city clerk / paralegal.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. This ordinance comes before you. It originated with Assembly Bill 1684, which was approved last fall and was codified in the California Government Code. Effective as of January 1st of this year, this statute allows for immediate imposition of administrative fines or penalties for all unlicensed commercial cannabis activity, including cultivation, manufacturing, processing, distribution, or retail sale of cannabis through adoption of an ordinance. It authorizes the ordinance to declare unlicensed commercial cannabis activity a public nuisance. It allows for administrative fines not to exceed $1,000 per violation or $10,000 per day. And the administrative fine or penalty can be imposed on a property owner and each owner of an occupant business entity engaging in the unlicensed activity, and hold them jointly and severally liable. It also allows agencies that have adopted the ordinance with these provisions to refer matters involving unlicensed commercial cannabis activity to the Attorney General. Currently, staff is authorized to issue administrative fines under the Government Code Section 36900B in the amount of $100, $200, and $500 as escalating fines. This ordinance would provide staff with an ability to increase fines specifically related to unlicensed activity for commercial cannabis to $1,000 per violation and a maximum of $10,000 per day. So staff is recommending that the council waive the first reading and introduce the proposed ordinance. I do want to point out that there, in the actual ordinance, there are a couple of clerical errors that need to be corrected. In reference to adding the ordinance as Chapter 41 into the municipal code, that would be Chapter 41 of Title 4. And also the heading of the ordinance indicates that municipal code sections 1.5002 and 1.5206 should be amended. 1.5206 should read 1.5207. So with those amendments, I'd also like to point out one additional amendment in the actual ordinance that would be added, the chapter that would be added rather. Chapter 41 in Section 4.41104, Section D. It indicates that the definition for distribution refers to the procurement, sale, and transport of cannabis and cannabis products between licensees. Staff would like to propose that that language be changed to persons or entities. These definitions are taken directly from the Business and Professions Code, Division 10, and in that section, they refer to licensed and unlicensed cannabis products and other things. So we just want to make sure that there's a clear reading of what that would mean. So we would suggest that that would be changed to persons or entities rather than licensees. And with those changes, again, we would recommend that the council consider waiving the first reading and introducing the proposed ordinance. Thank you.
Do I have any comments, questions? Vice Mayor Shaw?
There's a cap now of the 10,000 per day. Was there a cap before? I know we had the one that, was it just the 100, 200, 500? Was it just a per violation?
Per violation per day.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. As most of the community and the members of the dais, my colleagues on the council understand that I am strongly opposed to introducing cannabis operations within the city of Oakley. I believe it doesn't fit our lifestyle, it doesn't fit our safety plans, it doesn't fit our needs, and so I'm glad that we're taking measures to ensure that we don't have any road marijuana growth and handling this in a professional manner.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion?
That's it.
Have we,
Oh.
there is no public comment, or have we confirmed that?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. We don't have any speaker cards. Would anybody like to make a public comment? Okay, great.
I will make the motion to waive the first reading and all with the changes that were stated by the city clerk.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Can we have a roll call taken, please, Ms. Veronis?
Councilmember Meadows,
Aye.
Dr. Fuller,
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
The item passes unanimously.
All right, we are moving on to item 6.2, adopt a resolution to establish a library and community center project-specific subcommittee. This is being covered by Joshua McMurray, our city manager.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. I alluded to this item at the last City Council meeting where I provided an update on the library project. And what I'm asking for tonight are two things. The first is to identify a two-person subcommittee of the City Council for this project-specific committee. And the reason we are calling it that is so we avoid being subject to the Brown Act. This is a very limited duration committee. We expect only to meet a few times. And the focus of this committee is to work with our community partners that we are starting to connect with, talk to, and try to figure out a funding plan to bring this library project to fruition. So with that, I would seek two members to be nominated by the City Council and established by resolution, and a resolution is attached. And as discussed at the last City Council meeting, this funding exercise, in my recommendation, we need to establish a duration for how long we seek funding. And in order to start that conversation, I identified in the staff report a time frame of through the remainder of this calendar year. But obviously, at the pleasure of your direction, we will take whatever you decide ultimately as a council. So with that, that concludes my report, and I am available for any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions? Councilmember Meadows.
I don't have questions, I have comments, though. One, I would also like to see it in December 31 of this year. And then I would recommend our mayor and vice mayor serve on the committee.
Any other comments or discussions?
I would actually really like to be on this committee, so I appreciate that.
Same. This is a project that I feel really passionate about, so thank you for saying that. I really want to see this happen, so that would be great. But let me get to any questions from Councilmember Fuller.
No?
Okay, so any public comments? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion then?
I move that we nominate Vice Mayor Shaw and Mayor Williams to this committee, and this committee is to terminate on December 31 of 2024.
And I'll second that.
Great, so we have a first and a second. Ms. Baronius, can you conduct the roll call vote?
Councilmember Meadows,
Aye.
Dr. Fuller,
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
The item passes unanimously.
All right, moving on to item 6.3, a resolution of the City Council of Oakley declaring the existence of a local emergency due to the city's sustaining of a cyber attack on February 22nd, 2024. This item will be covered by Derek Cole, our city attorney.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I think you're all familiar now with the cyber attack that has occurred. We are requesting the declaration of an emergency for purposes of ensuring that the EOC is activated to the extent necessary. This was a complete abundance of caution maneuver. This is not a traditional emergency such as we had during COVID or a natural disaster. I will stop there. I do not have the most recent information. I'll turn it over to the city manager as far as what's going on, what's happening. But just legally speaking, we're not likely to get any reimbursement from the state. That was a big reason why we did these declarations during the COVID era. But we do want to make sure that emergency powers, in particular purchasing powers that had to be made immediately last week once the cyber attack was discovered. And again, just to make sure that there are emergency operations in place to the extent needed. So I will stop there, and then the city manager can fill you in on more of the details.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. The need to declare a local state of emergency, as the city attorney mentioned, was necessary to activate the EOC. As he mentioned, also to increase the ability for staff to purchase. And knowing that we had a city council meeting just a few short days away within the 7 days that our code requires for you to ratify that declaration, I felt like it was appropriate. I plan on keeping the EOC open through the length of our investigation. We are currently under an active investigation. I'm not really at liberty to disclose publicly where we are at with that, but we are actively working through that, actively trying to restore all of our systems so we are fully operational. I would expect and estimate that the EOC will be open for probably at a minimum another week, but I'd say another two weeks would be safe. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Okay, great. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Councilmember Fuller, do you have any questions, comments, or discussion?
No, I appreciate what staff has done. I've been through this in the city of LA. I've seen it in other areas. I believe they responded well, responded professionally, and are handling it correctly. And I support this action so we can conclude our investigation and get our city back in operation.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
I wanted to echo that. The staff was working around the clock all weekend, and while we even had a governance training this weekend and stopped to take care of that for us. So I know that's been long hours and probably a lot of restless nights for some of you, and I just appreciate everything that you guys have done. So,
Councilmember Meadows.
I would echo that. I mean, I was aware of the staff here and saw him here when I was driving by, and he's put a lot of hours in and did a lot of good work, so thank you.
We definitely all appreciate the work. We know, how intense it was, and you kept us all up to date, and I felt like the city was in very good hands, so I really appreciate everybody. I know nobody wanted to be doing that on the prettiest weekend we've had in so long, so we really appreciate it. Any public comments on this item? I'm nailing it now, Derek. I got it. I got public comments. All right. Do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Ms. Veronis, can you please call the roll call?
Councilmember Meadows,
Aye.
Dr. Fuller,
Aye.
Councilmember Henderson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
The item passes unanimously.
Great. We are moving on to item 7, reports. 7.1, our city manager.
Good evening again. Wanted to highlight 2 events happening in the community. The first one this Friday, March 1st. We're holding another Friday Night Bites event. And then a real exciting annual event that we have to look forward to, Oakley's Got Talent. That is happening Saturday, March 9th from 1 to 4 p.m. at our Oakley Recreation Center. That covers item A. Item B, I did draft a new rail platform safety plan memo that has been attached to the agenda. That covers the future agenda item request that was made several meetings ago. Happy to answer any questions you have about that memo, if there are any. If there are not, I will defer the rest of my time to our police chief to cover and lead the discussions on items C, D, and E.
I have a sort of question about the rail platform. It's not really about the safety though, so this is a real loose. We got a public comment a few meetings ago about a quiet zone, and I just think with the proximity of it, it may be something that we want to think about, talk about, look at, explore. Martinez has one similar in their downtown and near the home, so I just wanted to have that sort of looked at potentially.
Sure. I mean, it's related to the train. I mean, obviously, with or without the new platform that's going to be installed, we have trains actively running through the city, and they can be noisy at times. I would recommend if that is the direction you want to give staff, that it come as a future agenda item request, because there is a significant amount of work that goes into that, and there's a process, and I would just like formal direction, but don't mind acting on that direction if given. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Yes, this is Councilmember Fuller, Dr. Fuller. I live by Bayview, and I researched the 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock freight trains and others that came through blowing their horns and proceeding through and just discussing it with various federal officials and railroad officials. They're very limited when they cross an intersection. There's a requirement that the engineer blow his horn as loudly as possible approaching an intersection. And it'd be nice if we could get that quiet, but I'm not sure that we could, the way federal regulations, how successful we will be. That's all I had.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's you now.
Right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. It's quite an honor to be here as your police chief. This is the only jurisdiction I would do this job in, so I can say that because of the support that I received from the council, city management, my middle management, and the folks below us. So I feel we have a really good thing here going, and I just truly appreciate what we're doing. This was a positive year of growth for the PD. I'll get into all the ins and outs of why I can make that statement. But just to jump into it, I am joined here by arrows. advance, please. So I'm joined here today by Lieutenant Robert Roberts. He is our operations commander. He is in charge of everything that we see on the street involving a patrol car or a police officer, and all matters involving patrol or investigations. I'm also joined by Lieutenant Logan Cartwright. He is in charge of all things related to support services, records, and internal investigations. Next slide, please. The mission of the PD, first and foremost, we are here to enforce the law, protect others from harm, keep peace and restore order when peace has not been had, maintain the upper hand on the criminal element, safeguard the city interests, and build community relations. Next slide, please. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this slide because this is a repeat slide from things I have said in the past. I will just reference back to the slide during different points in my presentation. Next slide, please. So as we have moved past COVID, all of the state of California, all of Contra Costa County, even Oakley itself, we have all experienced an increase in crime. We are currently I received this information from some open source data points. In 2023, California was ranked as the 17th most violent state in the union. We had a 6% increase in those stats between 21 and 22. We had a slight decrease in homicides, but a significant increase in robberies, and I think I know why. We will get to that in a minute. Primarily, what is a criminal going to do when a criminal is not held accountable? The criminal is going to continue to commit crime. And I think that is the framework of what is plaguing us all in these current times. Next slide, please. I didn't realize this stat was out there. I find it very shocking, though, that 14 out of 1,000 vehicles are stolen in California. Throughout my career, I have used the criminal stat of stolen vehicles as a barometer to all other criminal activity. Because all other criminal activity, or quite a large amount of criminal activity, depends on a vehicle to get you to and from the scene of the crime. And quite often, stolen vehicles are used in that regard. So that is a stat I have tracked very closely throughout my career. I don't know that I've ever seen it to be 14 out of 1,000 vehicles stolen in any given year. Next slide, please. I think we can all attest, if we ever drive up and down Highway 4, our driving behaviors continue to be aggressive and egregious. Sideshow activity has not waned. We did not have any sideshows in Oakley that were reported to us or that came to our attention last year, but we responded several times to outside jurisdictions to assist them with their sideshows. Next slide, please. So here's the stat where we can start to beam with some pride. These are all the hires of police officers that we made last year. Detective Pistello, he comes to us from Alameda PD. He was a motor officer, or he took a course of study in traffic investigation at Alameda. In my mind, I just knew he was going to be one of our next motor officers. He chose to be a detective instead. He's doing a great job. Officer Hurtado, great guy from Pittsburgh. He is in his second or third year being a police officer and doing just fine. Detective Brandon Gill, 7 years with Daly City PD. We don't often find that we get a 7-year officer as our brand new officer. So we're very happy to have Detective Gill, and his 7 years of experience shines through every single day. Officer Connor Johnson represents the first time in a matter of years that we have taken anybody from the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office. I came from the Sheriff's Office myself. I still have near and dear friends from the Sheriff's Office. I wanted to make sure that we created a little bit of a divide between Oakley PD and the Sheriff's Office. So for a period of time, we did not look at those candidates. But I'm open to that again, and Officer Johnson has proven himself to be a very good officer for us. Officer Cameron Taylor, again, another officer from Alameda County, 1 or 2 years on the job, doing a great job. And Officer Carl Wade, we hired him in December from Albany PD. Again, 1 or 2 years of experience. Next slide, please. We are now allotted 41 people from myself down to Officer Wade. On paper, we're in pretty good shape by having a total of 40 personnel. Next slide, please. The purpose of this slide is just to demonstrate that your 3 administrators, myself and 2 lieutenants, we are not operational. I do not count us in the operational numbers. Next slide, please. I had to deal with something last year that I had not dealt with before, and I actually had an officer leave Oakley PD to go work somewhere else. We have made a very good track record of hiring others from other agencies to come to Oakley. So when I initially lost this first officer, I knew it was going to happen at some point. It was a little bit of a blow, but as I dug in a little bit, I understood why he left. And he left us for the same reason that so many others come to us. Simply put, he's starting a family, and he wanted to work closer to home. He was commuting in from a greater distance than we typically see. So he is now working close to home and doing just fine at his new agency. For 2024, I am looking at, possibly looking at 2 service retirements this year. So that'll be a loss of 2 officers this year. Next slide, please. Just a general slide to illustrate the numbers of allotment and actual numbers we have. Next slide, please. And if you could take me to the graph that has 2 graphs on it, please. To the slide with 2 graphs. Right, back one. One more, please. Right there. So when I made this presentation to you last year, we had 37 operational slots. Again, we had 40 assigned officers on paper. I take out the 3 administrators, equals 37. We only had 25 people to do the work of 37 people. That equated to only having a 68% occupancy rate. This year, because of the hires, we have 38 spots open, and I have 33 people. So that creates an 87% occupancy rate, which I think is quite admirable. And with that number, with that increase, we're able to do more with more. Next slide, please. So that increase of 19%, it allowed me to fill up our investigations unit, it allowed me to fill up our traffic unit, and allowed us to start up a brand new unit called the Special Services Team. Next slide, please. The city is still broken up into 3 beats. I just want you to understand what you typically will see between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 in the morning. You'll have 3 officers and a sergeant. Beat 1 covers the west portion of the city. Beat 2 covers the east portion of the city. Beat 3 covers the central portion of the city. And we have drawn the beat lines in each beat so that they roughly get the same amount of calls for service in them. During daytime periods or during periods when our special services team is working, we actually have more officers on the street, but this is what you'll see as a basic minimum. Next slide, please. So I want to define these a little bit. A priority 1 call would be along the nature of a 911, an in-progress crime, or a traffic collision involving injuries. A priority 2 call would be a situation where somebody has been threatened, but the risk of violence is not imminent. A stolen vehicle, a grand theft, or non-injury traffic collisions. A priority 3 would be along the lines of an officer doing a security check, an officer responding to a residence to take a cold misdemeanor report. By cold, I mean there's no suspect around. We don't know who did this crime. Or an officer having an exchange of info with a resident. As you can see, we had roughly 2,000 priority 1 calls. We had 2,800 priority 2 calls. And the overwhelming bulk of our calls is 15,000 priority 3 calls. And that is very typical. Most of our calls for service will always be of the priority 3 nature. Next slide, please. A little bit of an anomaly. Still trying to figure out, quite frankly, is we saw a total call for service, we saw a 20% reduction in total calls for service this past year. Some of that is related to work we have done, and I'll get into that. Some of this is going to be things I cannot answer for. I believe that some people just are not calling for some types of incidents. Next slide, please. I wanted to establish some key statistics that we could follow from year to year to year, so that we could track to see how the city of Oakley is faring. And I don't know that I need to go line by line on those stats, but you see them on the screen. I would just say that the robbery, the 130% increase of robberies, while it sounds egregious, it is, I'll give you that, it is. But that increase of 13 robberies is mostly caused by a person going into one of our 4 retail centers, stealing property, stealing goods to the level of maybe a petty theft, walking out, being confronted by a store employee, and then that turning into a physical confrontation. Because that physical confrontation is related to a theft, it is classified as a robbery. Now, that is not to say that all 23 robberies are of that nature. We did actually have some robberies where violence and guns were involved. But I want to try to account for why we see an increase of that violent crime in our stats this year. Next slide, please. I've already covered why I track vehicle thefts. We do see a 32% rise in those thefts. I would say that up until the fall, we were tracking pretty even with the previous year. In the fall is when we started to see that we were starting to take more stolen vehicles. Not only were we taking more stolen vehicles, but we started to see more stolen vehicles being taken in the whole region. As a fact, we are currently sitting at 23 stolen vehicles for 2024. So from January 1st through today, we have taken 23. Sounds bad, and it is. I would like to see none, but there are other local jurisdictions that are in the hundreds, and I feel horrible for what they're going through. But let's keep things in perspective, if we can, for what we do have going on here in Oakley. Next slide, please. When I total all those key statistics, we did see a 14% increase. So what we're seeing is a 14% increase in these key things that I track, but a 5,000 reduction in the total calls for service. Again, I will try to figure that out. I'm still working on that. Next slide, please. So what do we do to mitigate the increase in crime? Our answer is to simply add staff, train our staff, and give our staff the proper expectation to go out and do the job. Next slide, please. So the next few slides will cover our specialty assignments. This is Officer Radcliffe and Canine Harkon. Harkon, he's undoubtedly going to be more popular than Officer Radcliffe, and I just understand that, the reasons why. Harkon is a 4-year-old German Shepherd. He has been working with us for 3 years now. We can expect his lifespan, his career span to be between 4 and 6 years. So we are looking at between 1 and 3 more years of career span out of Harkon. And with the amount of work he's doing next slide, please. With the amount of work he's doing right now, I'm hoping it's more along the 3-year timeline than the 1-year timeline. You can see some key stats that Officer Radcliffe and Officer Harkon, or Canine Harkon, have done over the past year. 28 total deployments where Harkon has been called upon to either do something for Oakley or for another jurisdiction. Harkon is a regional asset, so we often see where other jurisdictions will call upon Harkon to come respond and help them out with whatever they're dealing with. That happened 11 times. 18 times out of these 28 deployments, we had give-ups or arrests due to the work that Harkon was doing for us. We had 0 uses of force, meaning Harkon didn't bite anybody last year. And 10 of those 18 give-ups and or arrests were related to these stolen vehicle issues. Again, this is an issue that is on the rise. Next slide, please. Officer Griggs is our school resource officer at Freedom High School. Next slide. First and foremost, Officer Griggs is there for to be the visible deterrent and to be the line of defense for the students. We all know what has happened in our schools over the past few years. We pray and hope this never happens in our jurisdiction, but Officer Griggs is there to prevent that sort of a thing. In addition to that, I spoke a lot with Officer Griggs last year as I was preparing for this presentation, and I learned that a lot more kids than I realized go to Officer Griggs to be their unofficial counselor. I didn't realize he had that much of an impact on those kids. So not only is he a police officer, he's a counselor, he's a mentor to some of these kids. He took 29 total reports. 24 of his reports were for battery investigations, and he did place 16 students on mental health holds last year from the actual grounds of the school. Next slide, please. The Special Services team consists of Sergeant Minister, Officer Burton, and Officer Williams. Next slide, please. This is the team that we just stood up in June or July of this year. Their primary focus for the city of Oakley is to focus on quality of life issues. They will assist the traffic unit. They will assist investigations. They tackle mental health issues. They tackle homeless issues. They will go out of our jurisdiction to apprehend wanted people that we're looking for that have warrants for their arrest and arrest them. I can apply them to any kind of community-based enforcement that we need, i.e. fireworks coming up. One of our special services team members is part of a U.S. Marshal Task Force. What that does for us is that gives us access to the entire U.S. Marshal Service. So not only do we go out of jurisdiction to help out, but we can bring the Marshal Service in because of that connection through our special services member. In the pink square, you can see all the work that they have done in just a half a year. I won't go through every single stat, but I will drop down the last one. Our mental health commitments dropped 16% between 2022 and 2023. I attribute a lot of that reduction directly to the work that SST, Special Services Team, has done by going out and engaging our homeless people and our mentally health challenged people and finding proper arrangements and living conditions for them. And as of today, they've done all this work without a vehicle. Today, they just got a brand new vehicle, so we should see an increase in numbers. Next slide, please. Our traffic unit consists of Officer Brett Jackson, Officer Mike England, Officer Zach Fielding, and Sergeant Minister also supervises the traffic unit. So he supervises both SST and traffic. Next slide. We only had one officer between January through June. We only had 73 citations during that time. We went fully staffed in July, and between July and December, we can see the increase of citations. I want to say that just this early in the year, we're already trending higher than that number itself. We also use our traffic unit to come out in the middle of the night when we have a major or fatal traffic accident, and we use them to handle special events when road closures need to occur. Next slide, please. We picked this Gardner up to be one of our detectives, and he's actually doing a good job. Our investigations unit consists of Detective Dombrowski, the guy with the big scissors there, Sergeant Morris, Detective Gill, Detective Costello, and Detective Schiff. Next slide, please. This is a unsung unit. A lot of the work goes unnoticed because they're not really in the field. A lot of the work happens here in the building as they are interacting with the DA's office to write search warrants, arrest warrants, and move cases forward. We do have some of our investigators are on the ICAC task force. That is a International Crimes Against Children Task Force, and they were doing work in that regard as recently as this afternoon. And you know, that's all I can say about that at this point because that's an ongoing operation that will terminate tomorrow. This was a unit that was only 50% occupied until July. Again, hiring these bodies allowed us to do more with more. Next slide, please. In addition to the casework that was being done, the criminal work that was being done, it allowed our Sergeant Kevin Morris, to actually catch up on the administrative function of what a investigations unit does. We had cases that were lagging behind so in some cases for years. And when we got that full staff, Sergeant Morris was able to get into our case management system and actually bring everything up to current standards and current statistics for us. If you see a pre-complaint warrant on there, don't know what it is, it's officially called a Ramey warrant. Our investigators are writing a lot of Ramey warrants, and what that basically is, it's a warrant to go arrest somebody who we believe did a crime. And we have written a lot more of those lately, and we're able to solve more crimes because of that work that is being done. And again, I'll just keep on saying it, we are doing more with more, and I appreciate that support. Next slide, please. Some of the major crimes that they investigated this year, 2 homicides. One of those cases is moving into the prosecution phase or towards the prosecution phase. Another one is under active investigation. Early in the year, we had a string of armed robberies occurring over a 1-week time span between Oakley and Brentwood. Oakley detectives and Brentwood detectives were able to get together and determine who this suspect was and take him into custody. And I want to say there were at least 6 instances of an armed robbery attributed to this one person in that time span. Next slide, please. The friendly faces of the PD, our records unit. Our records supervisor is Yvette Fergardo. We have Shanice Alexander with us and Jennifer Padavana. Next slide, please. So the records unit, the work that our officers do could not be complete if it were not for the records unit. They are responsible for the final approval of all reports and the statistical tracking associated with those reports. They handle the clutch reporting. They do the warrant. If our detectives write an arrest or search warrant, our records unit is responsible for filing and maintaining those warrants, as well as the citations. Something I'm particularly proud of. Last year, this time, we were talking about a major case that we had investigated from 2 years ago. That being the homicide that eventually took us out of state and that sort of thing. That case brought about national attention. We had a network reporter call for information on that particular case, and our records unit supervisor provided information on that case, and I later received an email from this national reporter to say how grateful they were for the degree of cooperation that the Oakley PD provided them. It was said to me that that is not normal, that we were the most cooperative PD that reporter had ever dealt with. And one of my goals when I took over as chief was to make sure that the Oakley PD was elevated to a position of positive recognition. And I think we could certainly say that this is one element of positive recognition for the PD on a national level. We processed over 1,600 public record requests. From what I understand, those can be very simple or they can be very complicated, but 1,600 nonetheless is a large number. In midsummer, we received an award for having a less than 3% NIBRS error rate. In actuality, our error rate was 0. So not very often that does occur. Next slide, please. So we hired a total of 9 new employees last year, our greatest assets, 6 being those officers, but 3 non-sworn people as well. We had 2 promotions, Sergeant Dallas Collier and Sergeant Stephen Soares. We held the first award ceremony for the PD. At that award ceremony, we handed out 3 medals of merit and 1 chief's certificate of commendation. Next slide, please. I was going to remember who this person was, but now I cannot remember. On June 12th, we became a full department and a full city by the police officer that we hired on that day. Yeah, I know, Jerry. Thank you. I was going to guess. Now, it lasted until my guy decided to be closer to family and left us. But for a while, we were a full department and we were a full city. This past year, we were cleared by the DA's office on 2 officer-involved shootings from the year prior, which is a big accomplishment, a big thing to get off your back. We did streamline our statistical data reporting to the media by moving that from a department that was outside of the PD and moving into our records unit. And now all of our media partners are satisfied that they're getting real-time information from us. Next slide, please. I think we can move on to the next slide. AB 781 requires that we do a military equipment community engagement. So we did that for the first time last year. and I plan on doing our second one in the next couple of months. Our Police Officer Association created, Kevin Rahani created the gym for us, our Public Works Department. But our POA equipped that gym, and now it provides an element of wellness for our officers to go in after their shift and work out and build some camaraderie with one another. And we ended up having to refresh some of our pistol inventory as well. Next slide, please. So it's great to have the people, but if we don't train the people, we're not going to be very effective. I think we can move on to the next one. I'm especially proud of the last bullet point down there. Last year, Lieutenant Cartwright sent people to 84 different training classes. That, by and large, surpasses anything we've done in the past. And again, it allows us to have the bodies, have well-trained bodies, learn the most recent information that is germane to our jobs, and put our best foot forward in the community. Next slide, please. Kind of already touched on this, but our most notable incidents of last year was we had the homicide on Shannon Way. I never want to be connected with something like this, but there we are that night. This was the largest incident of violence against youth in Oakley, and that predates us even being a police department in 2016 or us being a city in 1999. Never before have we had four teenagers shot in one incident, but that's what we dealt with that night. We did lose one of our kids. 3 are still recovering from their injuries, and we did get somebody in custody, and that is the case that is moving towards the prosecution phase. In December, we had a homicide, and that one is being actively investigated. Next slide, please. Also in December, we had a fatal hit and run. That is also under active investigation. I want to say it was November. Tyler Horn, who was the main detective in the Alexis Gabe case. Another goal of mine when I took on this job, this role rather, was to create subject matter experts in the police department. I'm especially proud of Tyler Horn because the Alameda County Police Chief Association reached out to me to see if they could have Tyler Horn go speak at their workshop in Bodega Bay so that he could present he basically does a class on the investigation that he did. And a week after he did his presentation, I was with the same group of people because the Contra Costa and Alameda police chiefs got together for a joint meeting, and I had several Alameda police chiefs come to me to tell me what a great job Tyler Horn did. Ironically, on the same day that we sent Tyler Horn to Bodega Bay to teach this block of instruction, Detective Dombrowski had set up a hosting of outside instructors to come teach our people and other agencies as well on human trafficking. So we had, and one day we had 2 major trainings going on, both being hosted or coordinated by the Oakley Police Department. So again, trying to make the Oakley PD elevated in the community. Next slide, please. This is just a slide to show what we tend to focus on, or what comes our way a lot. A lot of stolen vehicle arrests. We are doing proactive traffic enforcement, as evidenced by the stats I showed earlier. We do get ourselves involved in traffic pursuits. We do have policies in place. We have guidelines in place. We have had meetings with the sergeants to talk about what we expect to happen at a management level in these pursuits. Pursuits are dangerous. However, if we choose to not if we choose not to enforce the law, a criminal is going to do what a criminal does. They're going to continue to commit crime. It is something I allow our guys to pursue, and I feel like we have a good handle on how we are managing that litigious situation. We do make a fair amount of arrests and recoveries of illegal weapons. The most recent one actually occurred this afternoon. Next slide. Some of these challenges are overlapping, but we are now in the recruiting business again. Educational standards, there is a movement at a state level to require a certain amount of education for the police officer. It will challenge the candidate pool that we typically see. So we're waiting to see how that's all going to play out at the level of post. Fleet availability, we did take 3 brand new vehicles in today, but getting brand new vehicles has been quite a challenge. The automakers simply have not been producing the law enforcement type vehicles that we need. Cultural trends impacting candidate pools. Yeah, I wish I could say that all 10 candidates that put their name on the piece of paper for us are good candidates. The fact is, it's not the case. And out of maybe 12 to 15, we do get one that we start to entertain for employment with Oakley PD. Criminal mitigation, AI is just on the rise. We are going to go to school on how to handle AI-based investigations, and I will be able to report back on that after we get done that course of study. Fentanyl is still an epidemic in our society, and our in-car computers are timed out, and so we'll be working on getting those replaced in the next year. And next slide brings me to the end, and I'm available for questions, feedback, or public comment.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
I know there's asterisks on your staffing numbers next to K9. It says allotment 1, actual 0, but then we see the pretty picture of the dog. I'm assuming he's just kind of assigned to something else, but he still has the dog.
So as I get a completely full staff, I will have a dedicated K9 that is not part of patrol. Right now, my K9, Officer Radcliffe and Harkon, they are actually folded into the patrol division. But once I get enough bodies, I will carve them out of patrol, and they will be assigned to their own unique shift.
All right, that all just stood out to me.
Councilmember Fuller, do you have any questions for the chief?
And one question and 2 comments. I'll start with the question. I'm happy to hear that we are classifying people taking property and then getting in a confrontation, a physical confrontation by force and fear of removing those items from the store with store employees. That is a robbery as far as I'm concerned. Whatever our DA does, that's their business, but it is. The other one is I am confused, and I keep hearing that people are obviously with intent entering a place that can be locked, a business, carrying tools, or with the intent of committing a theft in there, removing the property without the owner's permission and taking it. But we don't do anything with burglary in regards to that. And there was a time you come in with the intent of retail store of committing the theft, that was burglary. But why aren't we classifying those as burglaries and arresting under those type of situations?
Dr. Fuller, when you say we, do you mean the police department or do you mean the retail establishment?
No, I mean we, the city, if you want to say the police department, but we as a community, why aren't we arresting them? And I will limit it to the police department, but why haven't we pursued it under that in terms of the police department?
So I believe I understand the question. So on a police department level, we do respond to every call that we are called to, and we do take law enforcement action at those given calls. So that is not a situation that we as a police department turn a blind eye to. I am aware that there are some retail establishments that have, in some extreme instances, they have drafted policy. And those policies say that their employees will not confront thieves as they are walking out the store. To a lesser degree, some of the retail establishments have stopped calling when these thefts occur. But we as the police department, we will respond every single time and take appropriate action.
Okay, I understand that many of the places, many of the establishments will allow compensation. I understand that. But if they're taking, I see items, they're taking $1,500 not arrest him for burglary and try to recover the property in that case.
Okay, so I think I understand your question to where if the person is identified by maybe store staff and they turn the case over to us, why do we not investigate it to that degree? I think that's your question, and my answer to that is
No, I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying that if they do, are we pursuing that? Can we pursue that in burglary?
I apologize. Yes, we are. If we receive enough information and enough evidence, we will pursue that case just like we would pursue a case where we actually have a person in custody. So we do actually follow up on all those types of leads and try to bring that case to a successful prosecution phase.
Thank you. The citation level, just a couple of comments. The citation level I can see is being effective and being increased, and I'm glad to see it actually. I'm sure some of the constituents would not be, but I'm seeing some enhancement of driving behavior, and I'm seeing the enforcement. The other ones, the SRO, I am worried, and I don't know, there's nothing we may be able to do, but the state seems to want to take that all over also and have an SRO in every school, and we would provide it. But hopefully that doesn't pass and we can make the decision. But just a comment, I've talked with the city manager, and when the SRO comes up for the high school, and should be even include the middle school and SRO, I am going to be looking for, before approval, that they have put enough emphasis to handle situations themselves and budgeted, not for us to be seen as the people being there to enforce it, but that we will assist them in maintaining a campus decorum. So that's just my thoughts. And thank you. I was very impressed with the presentation and reading it beforehand. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question regarding, in this day and age, we talk a lot about how police officers don't have enough training and stuff. Do you have you said that there were 84 training courses that were taken over the previous year. Do we have any context how that relates to other agencies? I would think it's better, but.
No, I don't.
Sorry, I did not prepare you for it. It looks like we maybe had a public comment.
Have you noticed particular cars being stolen? And I'm assuming they're like Kias and Hyundais?
Yes.
So every city's having these problems. Is there any way to go back to the manufacturers and get some reimbursement from them for patrol, et cetera?
So I'll need to take the mic so I can get on record for this. But right now, there has been no movement made to approach the manufacturers for what some may consider to be a faulty starting system or something of that nature, right, to reimburse for public services. That movement has not been made by anybody that I'm aware of yet.
No, I don't think anybody's doing it, but I think between Antioch and some of the other surrounding areas, there's enough meat on the bone. The second thing I want to say is, considering the growth we've had this last year, I wish there was a way that you
Can you talk into the mic? We have to pick it up on recording.
Sorry. Since we've grown this last year, I wish there was a way you could take your numbers and incorporate the growth per citizen or such, because I think you'd find our numbers are actually down in some areas, per capita.
Sure.
Just a thought.
And that'll be something I can easily do for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. I
Okay,
think he's
well,
still here.
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. And now I'd kind of like to move into a discussion regarding fireworks. Fireworks is, again, a very polarizing issue in our community. We're not unique. We're not alone. Fireworks has become a large issue up and down the state, I feel. I see more and more media coverage on this issue as the years go on. I know that here in the East County, fireworks is a particularly big issue for our four cities and our county area. So to that end, our firework plan this year is I plan on meeting with Chief Bouchard with Confire to see if we can work with some arson investigators ahead of the 4th of July, just to see if we can get some things on the table and get some common goals established between us. If we are successful in having a joint effort between us, I would like to see the totality of the plan include education, enforcement efforts, pre-event planning, intelligence gathering, post-event debriefing, and some element of evidence disposal after the fact. Our operational period for fireworks suppression will be several days early in July. Lieutenant Robert Roberts, who is here tonight, he will be in charge of developing that plan and rolling that out. This year, July 4th is on a Thursday. Little bit of a, we'll see how it plays out, a little bit of a logistical issue to deal with, because we are left to try to anticipate when will the heaviest days be at this point. Will it be that Thursday? Will it be the weekend after? Will it be the weekend before? So those are things that we will be working into our conversations with our allied partners. During our suppression period, our suppression operation, we will pay overtime to our officers to patrol the streets and identify the violators and write the administrative cites like we have in years past. And with that, I'm happy to entertain additional ideas or comments.
Councilmember Meadows.
I'm going back to that last item. I just want to say, I think you guys had a good year. You know, it's all your leadership, and Yvette already left, but I mean, congratulations to her too, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you guys do.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any questions or comments on fireworks? Yeah, I knew you were getting ready. Vice Mayor Shaw, go ahead.
I know I talked a lot about this last time and experienced, you know, fireworks falling on the roof of my neighbor's house and had my props and all the things. I don't have that today. You're welcome. But I do like the idea of kind of making a bigger plan, and I know it is going to be difficult. I expect probably a lot Thursday night and a lot on the weekend. Obviously, you're much smarter in this area than I am. But I like the idea of working with Confire, so I think that's really thinking outside kind of what we've done, and I look forward to seeing what that collaboration looks like. So I don't have any other ideas other than kind of some of the things I'd mentioned at the last time, and I'm not shy about them, so if I think of any more, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fuller, do you have anything to add?
No.
Since we have an incredible PIO, what about doing a lot more like social media outreach and stuff? Because I'm just thinking of some of the citations that were issued, right? So sometimes the fireworks were purchased in a county where it's legal and they were done here. So I wonder if we can be doing like just a lot more social media outreach. I mean, I think probably my colleagues still get hit up, well, if you just bring back the fireworks show. And so I think last year I asked, okay, our rate where we don't have a fireworks show versus the places where it was legal, we actually fared better than the places where there were legal fireworks shows. So I'm thinking if we're sharing out that information as much as possible, potentially we do sort of that education piece that you were speaking of. So I know we have a very active social that's happening now. So maybe that's one way to really extra communicate it out.
So I didn't mention it, but social media would certainly be something that we would tap into. We have done that in years past, and I would be more than happy to entertain ideas of how to magnify that and spotlight that even more.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
The only one that I did mention that I just want to kind of bring back is I know being that we are dispatched to the county, they are dealing with so many cities. And so I don't know, and again, I kind of mentioned it the last time, if it's something that we can look at to a local number to call, or and I don't know how that would work, but I just kind of want to push that back out in the forefront, because then our city is being focused on by our officers that are kind of here on the overtime looking into that. And I don't know if it's possible, but that was really the one that I I feel like a lot of residents don't call because when they have, they've been on hold and
Yes.
things take a long time, so.
So our dispatch services of Contra Costa County, they are completely overwhelmed on July 4th or these heavily impacted days. And it's been like that since I first went to a patrol setting in 1994. So I know that they are overburdened. To the idea of having an internal number that we could call into, I have to look at that because first of all, I have to make a record of the call, and so the only way to really do that is to do that through dispatch. Could I take? I'll just use the number 50. Could I take the 50 calls that come into a internal number and later create a record? I don't know. I'd have to look at dispatch, just work with dispatch, see if that is possible or not. I'm also looking at a skill set, and a police officer has a lacking skill set when it comes to receiving information via telephone and being able to dispatch and broadcast out and keeping track of where all the other cars are. But this might be a very good topic to bring up if I am able to get into the same room with Chief Burchard. And I would love to bring this issue up with him, and maybe there's something I'm not thinking of in that respect.
Great. I think you're still up, right?
I'm still up, yes. So we're going to move into the SRO discussion. So as was presented, we've had a long-standing relationship with the high school to provide an SRO. We were approached in 2023 by the middle school superintendent to open up talks about having an SRO for just those two middle schools. It would be one SRO to serve those two schools. So all of our discussions have been exploratory, and we have hammered out some things that I would need to see as a police chief, and some things he would need to see as a superintendent, and some expectation of services and that sort of thing. When everything gets more firmed up, and if the district is going to demonstrate that they truly are engaged, that plan will be brought to you for discussion and approval. At present, if all this were to happen right now, could I staff for this second SRO? That answer is no, because I didn't capture it in the slides, but I am short 4 officers due to injury. I do have these 2 pending retirements that I'll be dealing with this year. I did just have another officer go on a injury that we don't know what direction that is going to take. So it's an endeavor I do want to do, but I have to prioritize it in the right manner. I think that having an SRO in a middle school is it just feels right. It's the right service to provide in this day and age. So that's kind of where we are right now with that whole discussion phase. But in the end, whether it be this year or X year from now, I believe we will get there, and I believe that all entities will be better served by having that second SRO.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
So would this be an additional officer that we would bring on for that, or you would have to try to do it? I know we don't have the staffing levels today, but say we come to an agreement, the school, we work everything out, would this be bringing on another officer, so we'd be at 42 allotted?
If I had all my bodies that I'm allotted right now, and if everybody was healthy, I could do this without creating another spot.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fuller, did you have any questions regarding that?
Just a comment, the same that I mentioned earlier is SROs can be very poignant and assist the school and is a value to the educational system, but in the same vein, I'm going to be working or looking at with the city manager and yourself in terms that these schools are budgeting enough money to police the schools themselves, and not looking to, not anticipating that the city with their SRO will assist them in maintaining the quorum. I think it's very vital that we look at that and ensure that we have a close working relationship, that each are sharing the expense and costs that occur. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Shaw.
I know we had a couple incidents over the last year, I guess, at some of our middle schools, and these kids are growing up so much faster than they used to. So I definitely see the benefit of it as well, like you do. And yes, there needs to be some sort of collaboration with the school, but talking about the school kind of policing themselves, there's certain training that comes along with policing, and we wouldn't want these teachers. We don't expect our police to be a teacher, and so we don't want to expect these teachers to have to do some of the things that I feel like only officers have the training to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. I think it's something that our many communities are going to start to move towards. Just these kids are so grown up in junior high, way more than mine were, way more than I was. So I see this being something that we're probably going to need to move to.
And if I could just offer a comment
I
in
do
regard
have a comment on that. When you get a chance, I do have a comment. I don't have any button to push.
Okay, the chief was trying to say something, so I'm going to let him finish, and then you can go.
So in regards to both comments, every school in our jurisdiction, they have a school safety plan. We do review the school safety plans on an annual basis, which I don't think is foreign. I think every jurisdiction is doing this sort of thing. But I have noticed in the school safety plan, there are expectations placed on school staff for what to do in X situation. One of the elements that the school safety plan calls for is for the police department to attend lockdown drills to see how they handle certain types of emergencies, that sort of thing. Ironically, we're attending one of those lockdown drills tomorrow for one of our local schools. So in regards to the schools doing things for them, being self-reliant and doing certain tasks on their own, I do feel like they are taking steps in that direction. I think that it's always going to be a conversation between a police department and a school staff of who is expected to handle what and in what circumstance. So I think the key is to keep that open dialogue between both entities, and I think we can get there.
Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, I agree with what the chief just said, and to be aware that we can't just be saying, well, we're going to assist the teachers because they can't handle it, and so we have to go in there and handle it ourselves. I think that's a costly use of personnel and perhaps heading in the wrong direction. My thoughts are that the school, if they want to have it secure, they need to not only train their teachers, but they have to hire enough security staff to handle the situation within the schools, to make sure that the halls are properly monitored and that the administrators are handling discipline actions in a manner that prevents actions from occurring. But if they do occur, that we don't just move in unless, of course, if there's a firearm being involved or something of that nature. But the intent is that the school can hire their own security. They can handle situations themselves. And again, if we can augment the school, but it's still the school's responsibility to maintain a safe environment and to hire enough personnel and provide enough training so that they can handle the situations themselves from their budget, not necessarily ours.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I think you're off the hook now.
Thank you.
All right, we are on item 7.2, Oakley City Council. Oakley City Council acting as a successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency, reports from council liaisons to regional committees, commissions, and boards. And Oakley City Council acting as a successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency. Vice Mayor Shaw.
I know we all attended the governance training on Saturday, but what I would like to report on is the Affordable Housing Committee. We met, thank you guys for extending it out so we can have 2 meetings. I think we had a lot of hard truths to the management, and the owners did show up. I did have a conversation with the owner afterwards, and she just told me that I was quite blunt. So
Compliment?
Well, she knew you were blunt. She learned I was blunt. So we put a lot on them, a lot of expectations, we had a pretty big crowd. The next meeting, we've asked them to kind of come back with some goals that the residents can hold them accountable to, things that hopefully they can take, and then we can step back with some guidelines of reporting requirements to the city. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that, but I think it was things that they needed to hear. And I don't know if Councilmember Meadows has anything else on that, but.
I have nothing to add. I concur with all that. I mean, she might have said that we were blunt, but I don't think we said anything that she really didn't know.
You know, she said we were blunt, but it was things that they needed to hear. But yes, I agree. I think they already knew mainly what we were saying.
Councilmember Henderson?
I just wanted to comment on the governance training. I wanted to thank staff and the facilitators. I think it was good for all of us, and hopefully it makes us all work better in the future.
Councilmember Meadows?
So between the last meetings, I attended a meeting for Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Also attended the MCE meeting where I was placed on the Power Purchase Agreements Ad Hoc Committee. So committee looking at all power purchase agreements for MCE and power they purchase. Just make an announcement, the McCollum Trail opening, grand opening will be held March 20th at 10 o'clock in the morning. I believe it's a Wednesday. So that's all.
Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, I would like, when I finish this, Councilmember Meadows can repeat his announcements. I didn't quite get it, but I also attended the MCA meeting and MCE meeting and was sworn in as the alternate. And I know Councilmember Meadows is going to work with me to alternate meetings attending. Just kidding. You got it. So I'll be there.
I didn't hear you, so.
I'm the sworn in, the alternate. And I attended the DWD meeting, but it's too lengthy to really handle here. I will report on it the next meeting that I attend in the City Council chambers. So thank you.
Obviously, we had the governance training on Saturday. I also had a meeting today with staff from Lori Wilson's office regarding small business support for here. So we've got some follow-ups to go from there, but they did give some great ideas and some cooperative efforts that they want to work with us on. So that was exciting. We also had a 25th anniversary planning meeting, and Tri-Delta's tomorrow. So the next meeting will be longer. All right, we are now on to requests for future agendas. Does anybody have a future agenda item to request? Councilmember Fuller, do you have anything?
No.
Okay, great. So there are no work sessions for tonight. There are no closed sessions. So that will bring us to being no further business. This meeting is adjourned. The next regular city council meeting will be held Tuesday, March 12th, 2024.
Councilmember Fuller will be hanging up now. Have a good evening.
Mahalo Louis Noah. Good night.
Good night. I remembered not to hang up. Turn it off.